Walking with Bartram. On this January section hike, the Forest Service road to Harrison Gap was closed due to winter weather. So, we did our second and last in and out hike, Wallace Branch to Harrison Gap and back again. In January of 1777, William Bartram travels back again to Philadelphia after completing his travels in the Southeast. There, he begins writing his book, Travels through North and South Carolina, Georgia, East and West Florida, the Cherokee Country, the extensive territories of the Muskogees, or Creek Confederacy, and the country of the Choctaws, containing an account of the soil and natural productions of those regions, together with observations on the manners of the Indian.
I think he had fairly grandiose ideas of printing, maybe a multi-volume work. The book we have now, Travels, is kind of a compromise because that's all he could get printed because of the cost. William Bartram puts out a subscription paper for the book in 1786, which happens to be the same year that Benjamin Franklin returns from Paris to Philadelphia. So it suggests that Benjamin Franklin may have also been supporting William's book and may have been the kind of impetus to get it into print. The subscription in 1786 fails. Exactly why, we don't know. There's something happened, some acrimony, and then also that fall, William Bartram falls out of a tree here in the garden, breaks his ankle. It's a compound fracture, and in the 18th century, compound fractures were often fatal. You get a fatal infection. When he finally recovers, writes to various people and says, I was like to die. I was in bed for a year, getting over this infection. In 1790, there's a second effort to put up a subscription, and it's unfortunate that Franklin had died by then, but a young Quaker printer in Philadelphia, Joseph James, takes up the effort to print Travels, puts out a subscription, and it says very clearly when they get 200 subscribers at $1 per subscriber, they'll print the book. And we know the book was published in 1791. It's got a map, it's got a frontispiece of a Seminole war leader, Nico Chuluco, and 7 other plant illustrations, all very nice. But William Bartram actually had a second project to produce 8 larger engraved illustrations that were sold both colored in plain, folded, or bound into the book. And in a recent study of Travels, we've only found, I think, 6 copies that have those extra big illustrations that include some of the most special plants William Bartram found, including Franklinia. There's often a kind of thread in writing about William Bartram that Travels was a failure in America, or that it wasn't well received. And in our work studying Travels, we found that's totally incorrect. The book sold out by May of the next year, so there were no copies available. So the real problem was it's expensive to print an illustrated bound book in Philadelphia. Well, what happens is the next year it's reprinted in London, so 1792. It has a big London edition, probably several thousand copies. Then that edition is reprinted in 1794, which means they sold out all the copies. It's pirated edition in Dublin because Ireland didn't have a copyright law with England, so any book published in London could be reprinted for free in Dublin. So there's a big Dublin edition. And we know by 1793 they were selling the English editions in Philadelphia bookstores, so you could still keep buying it. So for the level of the literate scientific class in Philadelphia and across North America, the book was very well received. And again, it's a very complex book. Anyone who's read it, for the first time will say, wow, this is a hard and strange book. It combines binomial names, Latin binomials from Linnaeus with poetry, almost poetic prose.
William Bartram was the first American to write about the landscape of this country in this romantic language. His book Travels influenced not only generations of naturalists, but also English poets such as Coleridge and Wordsworth, and American writers such as Emerson and Thoreau. This world, as a glorious apartment of the boundless palace of the sovereign Creator, is furnished with an infinite variety of animated scenes, inexpressively beautiful and pleasing, equally free to the inspection and enjoyment of all his creatures. William Bartram. Join us next time for the 10th section of our hike, Wire Bald to Harrison Gap. Connect with us on YouTube and Facebook. If you enjoyed this, click the thumbs up and follow us to see the next episode.